What is up, sluts? We're back again. Back with another Slutcast. With the OG slut himself.
It's me!
Yeah,
Bonito.
Oh shit, it really is the OG. You're right. Why would I ever lie? I never lie. He's not here.
You ain't never lied.
But anyway, welcome to another Slutcast. We are just as of recording this, we are just 1 week away from the release of the very much anticipated Scarlet and Violet. What, you thought I was talking about Sonic Frontiers? Nah, man, we gotta talk about bad games.
Yeah!
So, in this lovely, Slutcast, I was gonna say location or house, whatever the fuck we're at. We're gonna be talking about the two previous Pokemon games that were released before Scarlet and Violet came out, and we'll see has Pokemon actually gone to a very positive direction, and I'm very happy with it, or do they continue to make me depressed?
I'd say a little bit of both. Yeah. Mostly the latter.
Alright, but until then, before we get to that and before we actually officially draw the conclusion, let's dive into this, starting with the long-awaited, very hyped Diamond and Pearl remakes.
Correct can finally stop walking.
He's probably going to start walking now for the Black and White remix.
You're probably right.
Poor guy. Anyway, so before we get to anything, we're going to be talking about BDSP. Juanito never played it, but he played the original Diamond and Pearl, so he technically played it.
And I played Platinum, plus I'm broke.
But anyway, so what did we think about BDSP? Or at least, what can I say about BDSP? I thought the game existed. I thought it was a video game. I thought it was a video game. I thought it was a game that one can put in the system, turn on the console.
I thought it was a game where I can press buttons.
Yeah, basically. There is so little. I feel like this will only take like a few minutes to discuss because there's not a lot to discuss about BDSP, other than it's just a game. Right off the bat, you can already tell by the constant advertising of this game that this game was meant to be a faithful remake of Diamond and Pearl. Now, ever since I heard that announcement, my first thoughts of that was, what do you mean by that? Why do you have to specify faithful remake? Like, are we gonna have limited Pokédex? Are we only gonna have 2 fire types again? Are the Elite Four not even? Are the gym leaders and Elite Four members not gonna have Pokemon that actually resemble their types? Like, are we going back?
Is Candace gonna have a fighting type? Is Arceus gonna be part of Vulcaner's team again?
Is Distortion World not in this? Like, all those questions.
Still, you have Gastrodon instead of Togekiss.
All those questions that were unfortunately correct. This game, if you thought that this game was going to pull off Heart Gold and Soul Silver quality, or even Oras quality, you're wrong. This is quite literally a faithful remake. They took that to their fucking graves. They literally said faithful remake. And unlike Sword and Shield, where they were not very honest with us, they were too honest with us. But this isn't made by Game Freak, admittedly. This was made by Ilka. Who the fuck is Ilka? But Ilka took the easy way out.
Company.
Ilka just copy-pasted everything from Diamond and Pearl and just put it in this game. And it really showed that they didn't really put any effort into it, except when there are some things that are actually different. But we'll get to that in a minute. So, are there anything good to say about this clearly clone? Yes. Did you like Diamond and Pearl? You'll like this one? You can enjoy this one. However, I think that's more of a backhanded compliment of anything, because you can't really say, "Oh yeah, I'll just play." If you want to play Diamond and Pearl, you could have just played Diamond and Pearl or Platinum, which is just a better game. This is just a prettier version of it, and it doesn't run like it's not being run in a slug's pace. So I guess maybe you'll enjoy this one more. Yeah.
It's arguably prettier. I mean...
Yeah, I didn't even think about talking about the graphics, because I feel like the chibi style is just already speaks for itself. It's just...
I don't like chibi style, but like, it just doesn't look... It doesn't look good. It doesn't look as charming as it did back on the on the sprite work for the DS.
The thing is, like, this is I even if you can enjoy this game, this is clearly not the Diamond and Pearl remake we expected. We expected some combinations of platinum content and maybe something like a bit better looking, like a little bit sort of in the Sword and Shield caliber, in the sense that things were going to be a little bit less like a DS game and more like an actual game.
Exactly.
This not
just building upon the foundation that the original DPP had already set.
Yeah,
with
like
redesigns and remake teams for some of the gym leaders or enhanced teams, or just other quality of life changes that could have been added.
But if you already enjoyed the original Diamond and Pearl, it's safe to say that the experience of it is still the same, from the storyline and the not platinum stuff. So just know that it is a remake of Diamond and Pearl, not platinum, nothing platinum.
This is why they would never release Diamond and Pearl original or platinum for the Nintendo Switch.
So that doesn't inherently mean that everything is exactly Diamond and Pearl. There are a couple of things that are worth addressing. First things first, there is only one thing, I mean one fucking thing, that actually makes this remake relatively fun. And that's the Grand Underground. The Grand Underground expands on the original Explorer kit that I can't remember the name of. I only remember this one because this was way better. You can still get fossils in this game, but you can also catch Pokemon in here. And why is that any special than just catching a Pokemon in the wild? This is what pisses me off about the fact that this is being a faithful remake, including the Pokedex, because they didn't even change the Pokedex at all. They kept it the same from the original Diamond and Pearl, yet in the Grand Underground, you can catch Pokemon like Magby, Houndour, Pinsir, Pokemon that weren't in the original Pokedex of Diamond and Pearl. These were national. Yeah, these were national Pokemon, and it's like, why are they here? And if they were going to be here, why not? Why bother just using Diamond and Pearl? Just put the freaking Platinum Dex. You could have literally just done that.
If I read correctly, it features only the original 480 some Pokemon from Gen 4. To Gen 1 from Gen 4.
It's the same. Whatever the amount it had from the original Diamond and Pearl, that was the Pokedex. Nothing changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite the fact that you can have access to Pokemon outside of that in the Grand Underground. Now, granted, and this is the best thing about the entire game, because it's actually something different and it's actually kind of addicting. Because not only can you pick fossils, you can catch these new Pokemon. You can even make these little statues to resurrect Pokemon and actually, get even rarer Pokemon that you would normally not be able to find in these sort of caves or anywhere for that matter. You can get Pokemon like Squirtle. You can get Pokemon, you can get a bunch of shinies like this. You can start crafting Pokemon from these statues when you're in your own base. Now, granted, the base is not as fun or as interesting as the ones in Gens 3, 4, and 6, but at least the Grand Underground in particular was actually really fun to go through, and it was actually the one thing I really enjoyed from the original, from BDSP. It was actually such an improvement to the original Underground that I honestly just completely forgot what even the Underground... What the fuck was it even called? Was it literally just called the Underground?
I think it was literally just called the Underground.
Yeah, the Underground. But this is called the Grand Underground. It's bigger. It's more variety. It's interesting. It's actually pretty fun. And you can still do the same. You can catch
Tyranitar in it.
Yeah, you can do more stuff. You can do more stuff in it than before. So it's actually kind of fun. The other thing that they did, they actually brought back the Elite Four rematches. So out of all the Elite Four rematches, the Gym Leader rematches, but the Elite Four do have rematches. They do have different teams. So while they didn't bring in Platinum content, they did bring some things. The you can actually rematch the Gym Leaders after beating the Elite Four, and once you get the National Dex, and their team are actually better than the ones in Platinum. Mostly because the Gym Leaders, as well as the Elite Four, which I'll also get into, their teams are actually built with competitive movesets in mind. They actually have some really deep competitive EVs and IVs. They have movesets that are actually fitting, items that fit the Pokemon really well. Some of them have even hidden abilities. So it's actually impressive that they actually built these teams just from a competitive standpoint. Does that make them really brutally difficult? No. but it's actually one of the more challenging opponents that we've had in the entirety of BDSP. Meaning, wow, for once, we actually get difficulty in Pokemon. I'll explain why it still sucks, but at least the gym leader rematches are actually really intriguing. They're actually really fun to revisit.
But they only have 5 Pokemon, right?
No, they have 6. In Platinum,
I thought they had 5.
In Platinum, they did have 5, but in this one, they actually got 6. This is why I also think that they're an improvement. Because not only do they have a full team, but their movesets and Pokemon in general are better. Like, they literally feel like you're fighting a competitive player. And they can fake you out numerous times. I literally remembered when I got focus punched by Gardenia, because I didn't realize she was just stalling me with substitutes. So it's like, hey, okay, you guys are clever. Even the Elite Four, that are actually a lot harder because of this. They're actually built with competitive in mind. And Cynthia's Garchomp, in particular, it's the hardest it's ever been. This is literally the hardest Cynthia fights of all the Sinnoh games. This is the hardest one, easily. If you don't prepare yourself or even remotely strategize yourself on having to beat Garchomp, and I mean strictly Garchomp, you're just going to get your ass on a silver platter. So if you're planning to Nuzlocke this game and you realize that the game is piss easy for most of it, your run isn't over till it's over. That's all I'm going to say.
It's funny because in Legends Arceus, Garchomp is also the strongest Pokemon. A Garchomp to be specific, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
And unfortunately, my praise of BDSP ends there. There is only 3 things, and most of them are back-ended compliments. So let me tell you why this game sucks monkey dicks. So, okay, right off the bat. So, one of my positives, that the game is a faithful remake of Diamond and Pearl. If you enjoy Diamond and Pearl, you'll enjoy this game. Now, here's the problem. It's a Diamond and Pearl faithful remake, which means you're not getting a lot of the stuff that made Platinum an interesting game. Now, Diamond and Pearl, it's my childhood. It's my baby, I enjoyed it when I was a kid. But those games don't age well. So, what does Platinum do? Not only does it speed the game up tremendously, but it adds numerous contents, expands on the Pokedex, it brings us a fucking battle frontier. And the Distortion world expands on the story it expands on the story in numerous ways. It is the definitive Sinnoh experience, and unfortunately, it still is. BDSP doesn't even come close. The Distortion world isn't even seen in this game. You only get like one little room about it. I haven't gone too far into BDSP. I've beaten the base game, but I didn't really do much post-game stuff. If I'm correct, if you fight Giratina in the Wayward Cave, but then knock it out, you can rematch it in the Distortion world, but it's just a little tiny corridor where you fight Giratina's Origin Form at level 100. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it wouldn't make sense. But at the same time, I feel like that's the logical thing, because if you catched it in Wayward Cave, I feel like it wouldn't make sense fighting a second Giratina. But then again,
that makes no sense.
But then again, I've been wrong before. But regardless, don't expect Platinum stuff. If Platinum was your favorite game, or one of your favorite games in the series, and you expected even something remotely of it, you're only just going to get some minimal changes from the original Diamond and Pearl, and that's not even counting the fact that this is on the Generation 8 engine. So it's basically just disappointments handed over to you on a silver platter. Next, the launching of this game was awful. I don't know what the fuck happened, but this is the worst thing ever. Like, this game came out in the most broken state possible. How do you take a game that's already finished, has a third version that expands it on it and makes it better, and then downgrade it back to its original point and make it functionally and make it unfinished? You unfinished a finished game. How does that work? Like, people give shit to Sonic Colors Ultimate, but this is worse. Like,
wait. Are you talking about the fact that they that they had a day 1 patch that was like more than half the game?
They forgot the opening.
They did.
How do you forget the freaking opening? The opening was already made for you. Like, he didn't even try on that one. And you forgot it somehow.
They really
It's
didn't even
actually
try for that one.
it's sad. It's so sad. It's actually pathetic and sad. I honestly, there are some glitches that even made it into this game. Some of them are ridiculous. One of them was ridiculous. You can skip the entirety of Snowpoint City's puzzle by just simply walking forward on Candace's steps, and then you'll eventually make it to Candace by just simply holding forward as it's sliding you back. Legends Arceus has some of that moment too, but this is just hilarious. And then the void glitch is still here. It was here. Like, I know you said this was a faithful remake, but I didn't think glitches counted too.
Was the void glitch even in the original?
It was. That's how
Diamond
people were able to get Diamond and Pearl. I'm retarded. That's how people were able to get fucking Darkrai without the use of an action replay, because it's literally just breaking the fucking game just to go out of bounds. You go through a certain path and you'll eventually enter into the island of Darkrai without getting the event. People were able to do that before Darkrai's event was released yet.
I remember that. I remember my cousins doing that, and that's how they got Darkrai before it was even released.
But they did it here too.
I know.
You could have gotten Darkrai before the event was even available, distributed by Nintendo. Like, unlike before, where you had to wait an eternity to get any of those events, here, we already know who Shaman, Darkrai, and Arceus are by this point. So now it's just them releasing the events and us doing it legitimately. You couldn't they couldn't even... Bro, how do you do Void Glitch? How do you keep that one? I listen, I respect those that acknowledge the speedruns, that acknowledge the speedrunners, and maintaining the glitches that actually make the speedrun games very interesting. But this isn't a speedrun. Like, what the fuck are you doing? This is something I'm not supposed to be seeing this yet. Which means they developed this game literally the exact same way they added Diamond and Pearl. These stuff weren't added in an update or anything. These were already in the game. But unlike before, where it was in a DS game released in 2006, it's acceptable the fact that everything that is in the game is already programmed in the game, but just inaccessible without a specific item that you can't get without an event or by cheating. And yes, a void glitch in Diamond and Pearl. That's fine, You can't even get Darkrai and Diamond and Pearl now legitimately. So, that's fine. But here, they did it the exact same way. You couldn't even just not put them in the game and then add them later. You literally already had them in the game so that the Void Glitch was able to take us to the character. And it's like, to the Pokemon. And it's like, how? How?
Because it was faithful.
It's too faithful. And you don't even have to be faithful. It's so stupid. Anyway, I don't know how they do this, but they nailed it. And another thing that they nailed, I'm very surprised of how dumb the AIs are in this game. AIs are not particularly the smartest things in the franchise, but, they try. This one just doesn't. Most of the time, you're going to find yourself... Okay, so most of the time, you're going to find yourself in a double battle, right? So let's say you fight two Psychics. One of them's, and they both have an Abra, and you have a Prinplup out, okay? They're going to probably have Energy Ball. Logically speaking, the Abras would probably want to target the Water type with Energy Ball. Correct or correct?
Yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
I've had too many moments in which the Pokemon that's already in the battlefield that can literally just fuck up the other one with super effective damages just decide to hit the other target that either resists it or does neutral, as opposed to doing free super effective damages. It's happened way too many times in this game. And it's honest, I think many Nuzlockers even realized how dumb the AI is. It feels like a joke half the time. And I'm not kidding where I say half the time you're not going to refute. Like, I even played through Pearl version fairly recently, while at the same time playing through BDSP. Mars and Jupiter alone kicked the shit out of me, because at least when I have a water type, the Golbats know when to use Giga Drain on the water type. Or at least they'll know who to gang up on. Like, if you have a flying type and you see an Infernape, you're gonna use your flying moves on the fighting type, not the normal type Munchlax. And there's way too many moments in which they just choose not to get a free win. But then, at the same time, you have those moments, and then you get, like, legitimately hard opponents. Like, Mainline is actually a really tough gym leader in this game. They gave her Pokemon Power-Up Punch, which means not only do their attacks increase, but once they start landing Drain Punch, they heal now. So
you're right.
You get a hard fight like Mainline, eventually Cyrus. Cyrus is Gyarados, which is known to be a run killer in Nuzlocke in the previous games, now has an item that weakens electric moves, so you're never OHKOing the Gyarados, and Gyarados has Earthquake, so you got Cyrus, who's also hard, and has a Crobat with a stupid Quick Claw for some fucking reason. And then you have the Elite Four members, as well as the champion, who is the hardest in the entire Sinnoh region. So you can get like 3, count the Elite Four, do the math. You can get those amount of like hard fights, but then the most part, your AIs are dumb as shit. It's like you have a decent game in there in terms of difficulty. But then...
What about what happened to you with the sucker punching Spiritomb?
Oh my god, okay, so in my third attempt at fighting Cynthia... Okay, in my second attempt, actually, I noticed she really likes using Sucker Punch on my Alakazam. So I realized, okay, let me heal first. I saw her doing it again, and it's like, is she just going to keep doing Sucker Punch? I realized I could have just done multiple Calm Minds and finished up the Spiritomb. So when I rematched her the third time, I just did that. I just spammed Calm Mind, had her waste all 5 of her Sucker Punches. I got 5 Calm Minds and was able to fuck all of her Pokemon but her Garchomp. Like, Cynthia's easiest piss, if you can actually realize that all she does is spam Sucker Punch. Like, how do you do this? How do you get actual hard moments but then have really dumb AIs? It's a talent. It's genuinely a talent.
It genuinely is.
I don't want to, like, delve on this one too much, but, the contests also suck. I don't care too much about the contests in any game, period. But
I don't think anyone does, to be completely honest.
I do remember how the contests were in the DS games. You were able to dress them up, they were able to do dance contests and showcase their moves, and depending on what you were competing in, the moves that you have will give you more points if you're in a cool contest or beauty contest. It's a distraction. It's really nothing special. But all this is Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. Maybe you'll occasionally do a move here and there, and that'll boost your points. But it's fucked when my Graveler is cuter than my Baneri. We're fucked when we're at that point. My Graveler was able to win a contest, but not my Baneri.
Damn, I guess it'd be like that.
I didn't think people even found Graveler cute, but we're in this timeline together. And
some people say beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Anyway, the last thing I'll mention before we actually get to a game that's actually worth talking about, the Pokemon the following Pokemon hasn't been like the greatest in Gen 8 in general. Like, it wasn't good in Sword and Shield when they added it. But it's so much worse here. And, it sucks when Let's Go does something better than you. Let's Go has, like, a bunch of Pokemon following you with their own unique animations. You can even ride a good portion of the Pokemon, too.
Yeah, like Arcanine. I remember that.
That, for a game that I consider to be the worst entry in the series, that has so much personality alone. More personality than the following Pokemon in this game does. It has some of the animations. However, aside from the fact that they had to shrink the motherfucker to make it look ridiculous, so when you have someone as big as fucking Rayquaza, or even Dialga, literally having to be shrunk to make sure they can follow you and not look like they're overlapping the entire screen. Like, fuck, even Wailord, one of the biggest Pokemon ever, is ridiculously tiny.
Remember seeing that.
And then it gets
worse. I remember seeing memes of it online of just like a really small Rayquaza.
It gets worse too. You pretty much, they will never catch up to you. Okay, you're always going to be far away from them. So you have to constantly be dealing with the Pokeball sound effects of them returning and then appearing again and constantly returning and appearing again. And you might be wondering, okay, so turn it off. Well, Pokemon evolve through friendships sometimes, which means you do have to take them out on walks. Not all of them,
Exactly.
admittedly, but if you need to evolve a Baneri, like I do, you do need to have them to walk. So it gets annoying.
And
also,
favorite, or Umbreon.
And also, there are moments in which they can get you stuck.
Wait,
like,
what?
They are moments in which the Pokemon, you literally had to return them just so they can get you to move out of the fucking way. Because unlike other good Pokemon games, you can go through the Pokemon or they switch sides because they're right next to you at all times. You see that in Yellow. You see that in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. But in this game, you have to push the Pokemon out of the fucking way for you to move when you're in a corner. And sometimes they'll probably get you stuck, and you can't do much until you return them. So it's ridiculous how one of the coolest features that they brought back in Heart Gold and Soul Silver is actually the worst thing about this game. And it's, how do you fuck up something so simple? And that's the thing. Half of this is probably just me being petty. But I have a right to be petty. This game is so unfinished. This game is so disappointing and so pathetic that it makes me...
I mean, anyone would be upset by that. Because that's such an inconvenience. Like, you make it a feature, and then you make the feature such an inconvenience.
Like, I give shit to a lot of Pokemon games, that at least every single one of them have a purpose. This game, it's purposeless. It's soulless. It's just a cash grab to capitalize on the Sinnoh fetuses that really wanted a Sinnoh remake, and they just did not give a rat's ass. They were like, fuck it. Why not? Here. You wanted 3 Sinnoh remakes? Here you go. Take it. Take it. What's that? You wanted more? Too bad. It's the lowest I think I've seen this franchise go. And I've seen some lows in this franchise. But fuck. I'm debating and actually admitting that this is easily the most disappointing entry in the series. And we just had Sword and Shield.
I mean, I can see why you would think that, because at least Sword and Shield had a purpose.
Yeah, it's the next progression to the next gen. Was it good? No, but...
This was so that way you can't sell DS games on the Switch.
This is a sad attempt to bring a Sinnoh remake, and they didn't
The only
even
thing
care.
I can say is that you can catch the other Pokemon that are unavailable in Sword and Shield. That's the only thing I can say.
But even then, you can't even use the ones that are still unavailable in Sword and Shield, and... Oh,
exactly.
shit, I just remembered another con. But some of the Pokemon's lost moves. So...
That's right, yeah, I remember when Gen 8 started. Certain moves like Pursuit and I think Ominous Wind were deleted.
Okay, well, not that.
And in Power as well.
They're still, like, featured in the game, but some Pokemon that were prominent to actually having those moves cannot learn it. You mentioned Pursuit. I believe Weavile can't use Pursuit. The most damning one that I remember clearly was Zapdos was unable to learn Hurricane and Heat Wave. And it's hilarious.
I think Zapdos has always been unable to learn Hurricane, if I remember correctly.
Or Heat Wave was the primary one, at least.
Heat Wave. He can definitely learn Heat Wave, but Hurricane, I think, for some stupid reason, I guess it's just to not break Zapdos anymore. Because Zapdos in competitive is just really strong. But anyways, Heat Wave, yeah, I think Zapdos has always had Heat Wave. Why, he can't even learn it in this one?
He can't learn it in this one.
But
you mentioned...
I mean, they did it with Kangaskhan in Gen 7, where Kangaskhan can no longer learn Power Punch because of how broken the combination was in the 6th generation.
But then here's the
with
thing.
Mega Kangaskhan, Power Punch, and Parental Bond.
But here's the thing. You mentioned that is to balance, the game and everything. But then here's the problem. Riley, I believe it was Riley, someone that you can get paired up with in the Battle Tower can have a Zapdos with Heat Wave. So they're really not biting to their own rules. There's a video that talks about this in greater detail that I'll link it in the description anyway, because this person explains the moves that are being deleted. But, this game, I feel like this person says it best, that this game is treated more like Let's Go than an actual continuation or expansion of Gen 8. Every Pokemon game before, every single one, between, Fire Red and Leaf Green, Emerald version for Gen 3, Platinum and Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they all expanded upon their generations. Like,
Right.
you know, in Platinum, we got introduced to the Rotom appliances, which, you know, gave some leverages to Rotom being an actual good Pokemon. And they also introduced Origin Form Giratina. Black and White introduced the hidden abilities. In X and Y, we got Megas. Or S, we got more Megas. You know, each game feels like an expansion to that generation. We're introduced with newer concepts. That's why when you get to VGC, for instance, you always play the most recent game of that generation. Like in Gen 7, you play Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. In Gen 4, you'd be playing Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Gen 5, Black 2, White 2, etc.
Right.
This is not this is not an expansion of Generation 8. Not only because it really feels it feels like it's being treated like a side game, which, given by Legends Arceus, it really does feel that way. But you know we're fucked when VGC doesn't even choose to run BDSP at all. It chooses to run Sword and Shield, and Showdown even removes many categories of BDSP, because if you were going to play anything Gen 4 related, why not just play Gen 4?
Yeah, exactly.
The meta is exactly the same, and you're just relearning the game of a game that was already like well established and doesn't even expand on Sword and Shield. It's not like the Pokemon that were in this game got added in the Sword and Shield roster to the point that you can transfer them to Pokemon Home. If they're not there, they're stuck in Pokemon Home, and if they have a move that they remove if they have a move that they can learn in Sword and Shield just fine, but was removed in BDSP, like Zapdos with Heat Wave, that move immediately gets replaced with one of their level up moves. It's really
That's interesting.
So
because when you transfer a Kangaskhan from Gen 6 to Gen 7 with Power Up Punch, it still learns Power Up Punch. It still has it.
It still maintains it, yes. But
and I know that when you transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Home to Sword and Shield, and just to give the example of Pursuit again, Tyranitar with Pursuit, it says that you saw the option available, but it says like it's no longer it no longer serves a purpose, and it's best to delete it. Like even if you select it in battle, nothing happens.
But yeah, but that's what BDSP does. So it's mostly just being it is not an expansion to Generation 8 at all. It doesn't develop the meta in any sort of way. But it's a remake, you say. Well, Fire and Leaf Green, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and ORAS did that exact same thing, and they did the jobs better. And there were better remakes in general. Like Fire and Leaf Green is probably the closest one to BDSP's level in terms of like new quality, but they still went out of their way.
That's the first one.
Aside from that being the first one, they still went out of their ways to do the Sevi Islands. But now this is BDSP. We've already went past Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which brought pretty much everything that was already great about the original Gold and Silver and expanded on it, as well as maintaining the newer Pokemons that were introduced post Gens 3 and 4. There was so much
previous Pokemon by adding more to their movesets, like with Ho-Oh, Entei, and even Lugia.
And also, Gen 4 has the physical special split, which is a big contribution and a change in meta compared to Gen 2's meta.
And it makes it so you can catch every single Pokemon and complete the Pokedex with DPP and Heart Gold Soul Silver.
ORAS introduces new Megas and while it removes the Battle Frontier, but it introduces the Delta episode, which does add a little bit more quality to ORAS. I would still say Emerald is the better Hoenn game, but ORAS is still a better remake than BDSP was, because at least it made an effort to make it stand out. It worked for some, it didn't work for everybody, but it definitely did better than this one.
This one, all it does is make it so you can complete the Pokedex, but even then you can't even complete a Pokedex in any game, because guess what? National Dex doesn't exist anymore, remember?
I mean, National Dex is in this game, but I mean, it's a Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah, but it's Gen 4 National Dex.
Yeah, but either way, so it's
the same amount of Pokemon, the same number of Pokemon that you can catch in Sword and Shield.
Don't know, but either way, this is a pathetic excuse for a remake. I only find myself...
There's no point in getting a National Dex anymore because there isn't any.
Yeah, but like this is a pathetic excuse for a remake. I refuse. As much as I can kind of enjoy it because of the nostalgia I've had with Diamond and Pearl, this is not a good game, not a good remake. I'd say it's an insult to the fans who have actually been looking forward to this game. So I don't inherently recommend this game, especially now it's meaningless. If you're going to play a Gen 8 game, play Sword and Shield, because Sword and Shield actually is where the meta is developing. That's what VGC plays on. So don't even waste your breath on BDSP. If you want to play
the fourth gen, play Platinum.
Play Platinum. Or Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Yeah, exactly. Or Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
BDSP, I don't know. I haven't really finalized where I place this game in the ranking, because on one end, I would much rather prefer playing this than, say, the likes of Sun and Moon, for instance, which is just cutscene heavy. And I appreciate I appreciate some aspects of the difficulty that compared to a game like X and Y. But this game, just because this game kind of resembles a Pokemon game, doesn't necessarily mean you couldn't have tried a little bit harder to make it stand out better. Like,
exactly.
You know, say
and
what
that's
you
what
will
the
about,
remakes did so well. Even though they were remakes, they still built upon that foundation and made it different, even on a visual level. Like, on a visual level, they were able to redesign the cast and update their looks.
Like, say what you will about literally every other Pokemon game, but like we've said before, at least they had a purpose. This game, it just wipe my ass with it. Like, just waste my ass. Just wipe my ass with it. 2 out of 10.
Damn. Too much water?
Not enough. Not enough.
Not enough fun.
Not enough effort. Like, not enough.
That's a good way to play Pokemon games nowadays. Not enough effort.
Not enough, like, ways to convince me that this is a worthwhile entry. Not enough, anything. Like, you just done goofed. And you're in a sour situation when I'm giving more leeway to games like Let's Go and Sword and Shield. Yeah, you done fucked up, Ilka. Don't talk to me again.
How it screwed up so badly.
How do you fuck up Sinnoh? How?
Exactly, and you had Let's Go as a decent template for a Switch remake.
Yeah, Let's Go looks way better than this game. Like, Let's Go actually looks kind of gorgeous. It's not a good game. I don't like it because of.
At least the visuals are pretty, though.
Yeah,
exactly, like what you said.
And at least it. Well, and again, I can't really say this because BDSP technically did this, but I was gonna say it at least was what it was marketed as. But so was BDSP, and I'm not complimenting it for that. But all I can say is I'm not sure if I consider BDSP to be the worst entry in the series, but it's a very big contestant. It's a very big contestant of, being that low. But
I can see why.
Yeah, but Ilka, don't talk to me again. I'm unfriending you on Facebook.
What?
I don't know.
I'm unfriending you on Facebook.
I'm unfriending you, Ilka. Don't talk to me. I'm blocking you. Anyway.
That's another thing. We need to talk about this. Oka is an outsourcing company. They never made an actual game.
But see... Fuck.
This is their first actual game that they make.
You couldn't have tried harder. Like, you couldn't have nailed it in the ballpark and actually made me think, wow, I want to see more Ilka stuff.
What Oka stuff? There isn't any other Oka stuff except Diamond and Pearl Remake, and even then, that's just recycled Game Freak content.
Yeah, like literally Nintendo or Game Freak or whoever the one's in charge, they were like, here, take this. We'll do something that's more important.
I think this is more so Game Freak's doing, because we know about Nintendo's policy when it comes to games. Like they would always rather delay a release of a game so that way it can be better, and they did that with Breath of the Wild, and they're doing that currently with other games. They did the same with Bayonetta for a bit. Let's see, they did that with Mario Odyssey if I remember correctly. Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but Brawl was a mess.
But
it's
like,
development, so let's not even go there.
At least like, but those games you
mentioned, I think it's more so Game Freak and the Pokemon company just wanting to push these games out as much as possible and as fast as possible.
Yeah, and it really shows.
And just to tie in with the anime, I guess, I don't know, and the TCG.
It really shows. Like when you meant those games and you mentioned Mario Odyssey and freaking Breath of the Wild, it really shows.
Breath of the Wild. Which
Yeah.
becomes really relevant when we talk about Legends Arceus, and we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, but like those games, like they really set a high foundation and actually, progress their franchises to a much higher degree. Something that I just didn't see in Sword and Shield, and I just think with BDSP, it's like you really couldn't have made yourselves look any more stupid, because it's really pathetic that you really treated the Sinnoh remakes, which is something that a lot of people were genuinely excited for and were looking forward to, like a joke. Like, it really didn't matter to them. You didn't even bother with it. You didn't take the time to realize that this is something that a lot of people are very passionate about, that this is something that a lot of people grew up with. So this is something that should be handled with care. Zero fucks were given. Absolute zero fucks were given when making this game.
The game was released half finished, and it had a day one patch that was more than half the game.
Yeah, so... Yep, 2 out of 10. No respect from me or from Ilka. But let's let's move on to the next thing that's actually worth addressing. So,
Yes.
We actually got a game that they did try, kind of. We got Legends Arceus. Now, this is the actual game that Game Freak actually made. So, did this one actually... like, just based on the trailer, we already knew that this game was going to be very unique, very interesting, and it's going to set a different foundation. It's going to be the Breath of the Wild of the Pokemon franchise. Now, did it deliver? What are my thoughts on this game? Well, I will gladly tell you that I thought the game was okay.
It's a beautiful mess.
It's okay. I actually found myself enjoying it a lot when I started it, but got progressively more exhausted with it the more I kept playing. And I think there's a good reason behind it. I know you have your list of things, but since you've actually finished this game, and I still have to finish my playthrough of it, let me explain my experience with Legends Arceus before I give the mic to you. So overall, I think the game is actually great when you don't pay attention, when you don't go through the story.
I mean, you would have lied.
I actually find the story just whatever. Like, at least so far from what I'm seeing. I don't care about spoilers because I already know like a couple things that happen, or that will happen.
There's not really much of a story to spoil.
Yeah.
Save for who's the main antagonist at the end. Which we'll get to that when we get to that. Which, by the way, spoilers for Legends Arceus if you care.
Spoilers of Legends Arceus, but yeah. I find the story very redundant most of the time. Like, you're basically just doing the same thing. You have these Diamond and Pearl clans just going at it multiple times. The Warden loses control of their main big bad Pokemon. You have to...
Yeah, their noble Pokemon, I think is what they call it.
Their noble steed. You got to throw food at it, maybe occasionally battle it, and then you put it at peace. And sometimes you'll get a Pokemon to ride on.
That's just how my boyfriend solves my anger issues whenever I'm hungry.
Anyway.
He just throws food at me and then I'm just okay. Like, he gives me food and then I'm just chill.
Yeah, well, that's this game. That's literally most of what you do in the story. The side missions I don't even think are that fun either, because they're mostly fetch quests. Hey, give me a Pokemon with a nice tail. Oh no, I know that one has a tail, but that's not the fine tail I was thinking about. Then what the fuck is it? You're never gonna tell me what the Pokemon is? Alright, I guess I'll just look it up. Oh, give me a Buizel that's actually big. No, not that Buizel. Nope, not that Buizel. Not that Buizel.
Yeah, you have to catch an Alpha Buizel, which is like...
I know it was an Alpha Buizel, but I have yet to see an Alpha Buizel, and this guy is asking for too much if you want me to catch an Alpha Buizel. You catch an Alpha Buizel.
Spawn because I saw a few spawn. I just completely forgot about the quest, which, by the way, that's another thing I want to talk about. The quest, okay, quest tracking in this game sucks. Yeah. Like, you know when you play some open world games, they'll have, like, little markers on the map of where the general area of where you should be to complete the quest. Or any quest, rather. Like, for instance, say you are focusing on your first side quest, but you also have your side quest, your second side quest, I guess you could say. So as you're trying to complete the first side quest and you just so happen to stumble upon the objective of the second one, and it'll show, in some games it'll show like an indicator like, yo, you need this for your second side quest. Legends doesn't do that. You have to manually open a menu dedicated to the side quest and activate it, and then leave the menu and then look at your map, which, by the way, Legends Arceus has horrible menu design. It's all separated.
I do hate
There's like
that.
5 different menus.
I do hate that. I'll get to that in a minute. Honestly, the way you just described it didn't bother me too much because a lot of the open world games I played generally does that anyway. Like Fallout does that. So
I know it's a relatively common practice, but I still... is it that hard to implement? I mean, I guess it is. I shouldn't be complaining that much.
I would say my bigger issue is the fact that Ursaluna doesn't really recognize when I want to do a side mission or a main quest. Because when I'm trying to find this one character, in the side mission it says follow the blue sign where Ursaluna is heading to. You know, it'll actually make you find the objective. Now, I did that while having the side mission on, but Ursaluna took me to the main progress. And then when I finished the main part of the story, he never whiffed the side mission. I just accidentally stumbled upon the lost girl without Ursaluna's help. I have more issues with that. I had more issues with that than the map navigation. But I do agree on the entire UI of Legends Arceus. It's a fucking mess. Listen, my brain gets scrambled with the fucking buttons every time I try to figure out which one's the Pokedex, which one's the fucking Arceus
item, selection.
Or the item selection.
Which one is the crafting table thing? Which one is the one that you save in?
You want to
know mission log, the map.
You want to know how you used to do that in a freaking Pokemon game? It was just one button button, one menu.
It was in the I don't know how you screw up on something that you already did right the previous time. Like, and it's not the fact that you did it right once before. You've done it right literally all the way up to this point.
Yeah.
Like, how do you screw this up?
Every single Pokemon game that has ever existed has done that, and you even
except this one.
Except this one. Like, I don't get it, and it feels like it should be a simple fix, because in one pause menu, you can access the Pokedex. In one pause menu, you can activate the map. In one pause menu, you can save your game, and you can access your items, and you can check your Pokemon in one menu, not 6.
I mean, this is Pokemon. This is the same company that when Sun and Moon came out, and data miners were looking at the actual map of the towns and stuff, they noticed that there was a copy of Lily every point where a cutscene would appear with her talking.
Oh, piss off.
Yeah. Instead of having it the model respawn, they have multiple little lilies below the ground that just appear.
Okay, that's actually kind of funny. That's actually kind of hilarious. Oh my god, that's disturbingly funny. But
I mean, it's Luthamine's kid. Luthamine's already creepy enough. And Gladden's a fucking weirdo. But it's so just adding to Lily's weirdness just makes it all the better.
Yeah, it's actually kind of hilarious. But yeah,
that's terrible, Mother. You're terrible.
But so I'm just doing nothing but complaining about the game. So let me explain the things I do like about the game. I do really like explore. Honestly, the exploration in general is some of the things I've really wanted from a Pokemon game for years now. Ever since the regions started getting more linear and just less interesting to explore, it's been the one thing I feel like it seems like it's the natural, progression that Pokemon needs to go. Open world, having freedom of exploration. Granted, there's not a lot of freedom in this game, but it's an effort that I can applaud for. I can applaud the effort. You definitely pulled more weight than BDSP did, but I'll get to that. But going around the region, finding Pokemon that I've never seen before, like in that area, the alpha Pokemons, or even shiny hunting in this game is actually relatively unique and fun to go through. It's something that I felt it's a natural progression for Pokemon. I do think the story is very mediocre, redundant, and not filled with uninteresting and forgettable characters, in my opinion. But the exploration of the region itself, to me, was the heart and soul of the game. And that's not even complete. And that's not even just scratching the surface of the completing the Pokédex method. Yes, it can get repetitive. I mean, I feel like that's the whole point of the Pokédex. But I will give credit to this. Because of the setting of the game, taking place years before literally any of the other Pokemon game, hell, centuries even, probably, how the Pokédex is handled in this game is very dated and extremely different than how any other game has handled it. You had to catch the Pokemon. You had to catch multiple species of the Pokemon. Multiple versions of it. Like the male and female counterparts are different from one another. Catching it differently, feeding it, watching it do moves, beating it with certain attacks. These are all like very, very dated, like very outdated methods to try and study Pokemon in today's age. But we're not in today's age. We're in the past. And to
exactly,
me,
and it makes sense that way.
It works from a design standpoint. It wouldn't make sense that you would have all the details of the Pokemon by simply one capture and just writing it down on your notepad. This seems like the natural way to do it at a time period like this. Can it get frustrating and can it get repetitive and a little bit boring? Yes. But I refuse to deduct points on how the Pokédex works in this game because from a design standpoint, it makes sense that it needs to be this way. Could it have been a little less, repetitive? Sure, but like I said, the era of the era of where this game takes place makes sense to me. So those are my more positives about the game. I did enjoy some of the bosses against the steed, the main big Pokemon that go wild. But I have one complaint. So I did enjoy the bosses the noble steeds of the Pokemon, but I have one that I'm going to bitch about. I like three out of the four that I fought so far, but I'll even say this: you were surprised. I actually really liked the Electrode fights. The Electrode fight was actually kind of fun. My only main issue was just the dodging just felt delayed most of the time, and I feel like it just gave me Smash Ultimate buffer system vibes. So that's where my main complaint was at. But I actually thought the fight was more fun, if anything. The one fight I will seriously say that was actually garbage, and it still is garbage to this day, was the Arcanine fights. The Arcanine fight is the most frustrating, most bullshit fight ever, and it's not even fair half the time. The landscape is horrible. It's so small, you barely have any room for it because you're surrounded by lava. Lava that Arcanine can walk in, by the way. And then, first of all, he's charging from one side to the other. You have to time your jumps, which I've already explained that you have to time your dodges, which the dodges can be delayed or can be the most unresponsive thing ever. As I mentioned, that it just gives me the Smash Ultimate buffer system vibes. However, not only do you have to deal with the worst landscape of the entire game, you also had to know that you had to throw the food as he was charging up his super attack. And then, once you do that, he starts surrounding the middle ground field with fire. So if he's on the other side of the thing and you have to throw the food at him, you have to hope to God that you can hit your target with him. Because if you so much as go into the fire,
this game sucks.
If you so much as go into the fire, you'll take repetitive amount of damage, and he charges at you. Sometimes he won't even leave the area, which means you're surrounded by fire, and there's only so much your dodging can do. It's the most frustrating boss I have ever seen in my freaking life. Or at least in terms of this game. And I didn't feel that way with any of the other bosses, but then again, to me, the other bosses, I'm trying to really remember most of them except the Electrode one, which is the most, fresh in my mind because it's the one that I remember the most. But I feel like I just remember just doing them just fine, not really having much of an issue, but finding them not really standing out much. But Arcanine stands out for all the wrong reasons. I really fucking hate that fight. And I was really hoping that if they were going to get harder, I was at least expecting them to be at least well designed. So I was at least happy that I didn't hate the Electrode fight. I thought the Electrode fight was actually kind of fun. But I haven't seen the last one.
I can see why you would enjoy that one, but the Avalugg one, I personally don't like it because he does this one move where he summons pillars of ice from the ground, and there's no real tell from it unless you're far away from the edge.
Hmm.
And you need to get close to the edge because you're trying to throw, your the food at it.
Yeah, but
But you'll get to that when we get to that. For those who know, you know which one I'm talking about.
But overall, this has mostly just been my overall experience for Legends Arceus. I did want to try and finish the game before I did the Slugcast so I could have a little bit more to say. But unfortunately, I can't really force myself to play this game half the time. I feel like I just need to take a break every now and then. And even then, I genuinely feel like even if I finish the game for this, I feel like my opinions just won't change. I feel like this is the most mid-game of the series, but one of the better ones, I would say. Either way, this slut finished the game. This slut knows more, so he's going to be taking the spotlight for Legends Arceus.
Yeah. So you finish the game. I think I have easily over 100 hours in this game, and partially it's because I have low key open world games are some of my favorites. At least open.
It's addicting. It
doesn't qualify as open world, but whatever.
I can really tell you, it's an addicting game. I will say that.
Yeah, because you're so distracted all the time. Because you're like, yo, what's that over there?
Yeah, your ADHD brain one's ADHD brains can literally get distracted really easily for this type of game. So I have a lot of problems. I have my problems with Legends Arceus, but I will say, yeah, even this game did get my attention. I could not stop playing when I was.
Yeah, I have ADHD, and this one really did a number on me. That's for sure. But there's just for everything good that Legends Arceus does, it does 3 things wrong. So I guess I'll start with the cons first. So keep in mind, Nintendo actually let Game Freak use assets from Breath of the Wild to help them make this game. This was even announced before the game came out. So keep that in mind. And this makes sense for our first point. The environments look like shit.
Yeah. It doesn't look great.
They have the same ugly, fake grass texture on everything. And it looks the worst in Crimson Mirelands. The Crimson Mirelands, in my opinion, is the ugliest area, of the game. Because it all has this muddied grass look, and it just does not work out. And also it just takes you out of the experience. Cliff sides have the same texture as the grass you would walk on, which makes no sense. The trees levitate in this one. You can notice this when you're on a hill. The trees levitate. They are put in such a way where, I don't know if they are placed automatically, through some sort of algorithm or whatever, but they're placed in such a way where if they're on just the slightest slope and you look, up at the tree, you can notice it levitating. You can see the roots up. And you know how you fix that?
How?
You put the tree down, lower.
That's too much work. Not too much work.
It's too much work. No, it's too much damn work. Let's see. Oh, Snow Point Temple looks ugly as sin.
We were just looking at this one before we started, and I will agree.
Yeah,
the outside
hasn't gone to Snow Point Temple yet.
And
it really looks like someone just finished their 3D modeling project in in high school.
Yeah, it does look pretty bad. At least the outside of it. It generally feels like they just finished.
Okay, it looks good.
No, I meant again, keep in mind, I haven't got to this point, but it looks like when you're about to enter the Snow Point Temple, when you're in this gray whole corridor, that's where it feels like it was a little bit unfinished.
It looks like styrofoam. It looks like a set.
Yeah. Past the Reggie Temple, I haven't seen much of it, but I did see that one enough to the point where it's okay, I can see where you're coming from in the sense that this literally looks not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
I'll give this. Even the teaser trailer when the game first was announced didn't look impressive. When there was a lot of Pokemon that were just felt what's the right word to say it?
Fake.
Not fake, but their animations were so stiff. Like they were still like a bit stuttering in many areas in the reveal trailer. And I figured that I feel like even though this game was like a big step in the right direction, I figured that they weren't going to be taking a lot of the assets well. Like I feel like the game was still going to look shitty in some way. Just by that teaser trailer alone. When I just saw how Chingling was moving and Chingling just didn't look right.
Yeah, the levitating Pokemon just look the weirdest in this game because they have to levitate a certain distance above the ground. Any sort of slope or any steep incline makes them fall drastically, and it's so jarring. It really takes you out of the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the trees levitate better. What else?
That's how do you fuck that up? How do you make trees levitating better than actual levitating Pokemon?
Exactly. Another thing is the hit detection. I don't know if this happened to you, but this happened to me a lot, where you throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon and it just bounces off them.
I don't remember if it has happened, but
this happened to me a lot.
I don't remember if this has happened to me because I know I've had to get closer in some cases, or at least I think I've had the ball like bounce where it looks like it could have hit the Pokemon, but it's just like it was like just barely a notch and it just missed. And I'm like, you son of a bitch! And it happens with like smaller Pokemons, I guess. All I know is
what happens with the small Pokemon.
All I can definitely say is don't you ever use the heavy ball when you're unless you're in a battle.
It's so useless unless you're literally right behind a big Pokemon.
Yeah.
There's not really much of a point to use it. What else there? What else is there? Oh yeah. At times, like when you're, like, say you're in like a foresty area and you're trying to catch a Pokemon, like say I don't know, Carnivine. A tree branch that is not in the way will get in the way. That's how bad the hit detection is. It's like the hurt boxes are so off from the models. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't recall too much of it, but
well, specifically in caves. This happened to me in the cave where you find Zorua, and also the cave that's underneath that peninsula in the Cobalt Coastland.
Are you talking about the walls now, or the hit detection still?
The walls within, the hit detection of the walls.
Ah.
Yeah, which sucks. And again, also leads to my next point. In unnecessary invisible walls. So, the best way I can explain this, and Mark and I were talking about this before we started this podcast. You know when like you're walking down a hallway and there's this like sliver of wall that is just blocking the way, and it serves no purpose. It's just kind of there just for the sake of being there, and you have to go around it. That's what invisible walls are like in this game, and you won't notice it at first until you get Braviary, which is when you start gliding. Not flying,
gliding. Yeah, God forbid.
Exactly. We'll get to that when we get to that. But anyways, it makes it so that instead of the maps being shaped like a box, which is how they should be shaped, or a rectangle or whatever, they are shaped in such a way where the invisible walls are on top of the peaks of basically every little thing that can be considered a mountain. And it's annoying because you're flying through and you can't go through, and it gives you this like really foggy, hazy look, and you can't see anything, so you have to fly aimlessly to see where you're going. And it's not like the map helps you in any way with that. Like, the map does not show where the invisible walls would be, which would help, but no. It's unnecessary, it's annoying. Let's see. The spear pillar glitch.
The only encounter I've had with like the invisible walls, or at least like actual intentional invisible walls, not the Mr. Mime side mission that was atrocious. But
oh yeah.
Seriously, fucking hated that one. It literally made no sense how you had to go around him. But you know, I've one time like revisited one of the areas, and I used and I got Basculin's evolution, Basculegion, and I remembered like I saw this river, and it looked like it can lead to like an ocean, and it's like, oh shit, I've never seen the ocean in this place. I'm pretty sure there might be some water types in here.
That was in the Obsidian Fieldlands, right?
I believe so, but I don't remember right now. But it generally felt like there was more to the ocean, or at least more to the river taking me to the ocean. And then I remember just going there, and there just being like barely any space to get to this vast sea location. And honestly, I don't even understand why they even had to restrict the ocean. Like, you could still go back to the main land. You just don't have to put another land to like in the ocean field and just put water Pokemon. It feels like it's annoying because it just feels like you wasted the opportunity to make it so. I feel like there's just so much freedom being taken away in this game. And this is like a perfect, like, aside from gliding and not being able to like fly wherever you want to, or at least there's always like a boundary where you can't cross through here because no, you can't go through here. It's the same way with the ocean. Like, there are some levels. There's one hub world that is like, that does have the ocean, that does have the water Pokemon, that does have an island you can go to, but that doesn't mean you should restrict the oceans in the other places too. And it's frustrating when you're trying to, at least when you want to go to these locations and they're restricting you from ever really crossing the water, and you get this like little pathetic excuse of a pond that's like a smaller part of the ocean. Meanwhile, the other ones are covered in fog and you can't see shit and you can't even go there because you can't progress further in the area for some stupid reason. Like, dude, I know this is your first open world Pokemon game, but seriously, stop restricting me. Let me go as far as I can. And don't give me this bullshit of, well, that's like too much memory, or, you're asking for too much. Bitch, fucking Fallout has been out for decades now and has already been doing that. And there are many creative ways that
do a better job at it.
Like, so many open world games have their own specific ways of making sure you don't go out of bounds, but are not this ridiculously obvious about it.
Previous Pokemon games did a better job at this.
Yeah.
And thing is, this is kind of how Breath of the Wild handled invisible walls. Because in certain areas where there would be an invisible wall, it would get foggy. So this is from like left over from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, well, if you enjoyed Breath of the Wild, you might kind of enjoy this game.
No, because the invisible walls in this game are worse because there's more of them.
There's more fog. Yeah, like, I guess, like, I mean, I haven't played much of Breath of the Wild, but as far as I'm aware of, Breath of the Wild, it actually feels more open world, whereas Legends Arceus,
it technically isn't even open world. This is like open sandbox or whatever the fuck it's called.
Not even that.
Calling this open world is like calling Call of Duty open world.
Yeah, like, just walking into or just calling any Pokemon game open world, really, because it's like it really
one big room where you can just kind of do whatever you want. Because if it really was open world, it would be like how it is in Breath of the Wild, where instead of needing to go back to the main village, if you want to go to, say, Cobalt Coastlands or Hornet Highlands, exactly, you should be able to walk in that direction, like how it is in Breath of the Wild. And they use Breath of the Wild assets as well, so it's not like they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I shouldn't have to ask some guard to tell them where I need to go to trigger a loading screen to get there. Like, it's even ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how is it the fact that Jack and Daxter can create a little bit of a better open sandbox environment than where there's no loading screens at all, but Legends Arceus couldn't do something similar. It's like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And even then, like, I expected more variety and freedom in the open world environments, but you even said it perfectly. Open sandbox. Here's a room. Go dick around in there. Have fun.
Yeah, basically. Another thing about boxes. In Spear Pillar, I know you haven't gotten to this point because you don't get there until, you complete all 5 areas.
I'm close to that. I did get 4.
When you go past the cave, and you're on the steps, and you're about to enter Spirit Pillar, or what they call the Sinnoh Temple, they have I don't know what you would call it. I guess like a miniature skybox that is slightly more hazy and just a different color. And you can actually see yourself going in and out of that skybox.
Okay. That's interesting.
It's really jarring and it's so distracting and it looks weird and it really just takes you out of the experience. I don't like it.
You mentioned that there was a glitch.
And this is the most important area in the game.
Is that the glitch you were talking about?
Yes!
Oh, for some reason, when you wrote Spear Pillar's glitch, I genuinely thought that was like some game-breaking shit. Like, you could skip...
It doesn't break the game, but for Christ's sake, this is the most important area of the game, and you give it such an obvious glitch?
I really hate the fact that these Pokemon games at the Switch are like the least polished game ever.
Because they're trying to release them as fast as possible. They give them, like, what, 4 months of development?
I know, but it's so ridiculous that you look at the DS games and they're way more polished than the ones that are supposed to be in advance. Even the 3DS games were better polished.
Yeah. I think Game Freak just does a better job with sprites than it does with 3D modeling.
Which is, like, talk about Nintendo being boomers.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And it's sad because they literally perfected the, sprite work for the Pokemon series by Gen 5. And and afterwards they ditched it for 3D modeling, which is kind of understandable because they were facing pressure from both sides. Nintendo was going to release the 3DS at the time. And, a lot of fans really wanted, a mainline 3D Pokemon game. That's what everyone was so hype about.
Yeah, but it's a sad environment where Let's Go looks better still.
Exactly, I agree. That's another thing.
I don't understand
Breath of the Wild and Let's Go look better, and they had assets from both. And even in the trailers, it looked better. In the trailers, they gave it I think it was in the first trailer, they gave it this very interesting, cell shaded look to it. And honestly, it would have worked with how they were going with an ancient Sinnoh look. Okami did that, and Okami's gorgeous. For those who've played it, it uses a cel-shaded style, kind of like Wind Waker, but it's more based on Japanese art. And Legends Arceus could have totally benefited from that. And it would have looked so pretty, but they honestly, they just
didn't care. They just didn't
exactly.
care. I feel
they
like,
just didn't put the effort to it. And because even freaking Breath of the Wild is cel-shaded. Breath of the Wild is cel-shaded. So they had the resources for it.
Honestly, I think this conversation just made me realize that I actually do think Generation 8 is the worst of the 8 gens. At first I was undecisive between Gen 8 and 7, but then the more I realized the fact that these games are just so unpolished or unfinished and lazy, and how there's little care to it. As even though I've ranked Legends Arceus a bit higher than a decent chunk of the newer Pokemon games, it's still doo-doo in many areas. So it's I feel like Generation 8 is actually the worst gen so far.
I agree, 100%.
Gen 7 at least tried in some areas, and even though Gen 7 also kind of sucked, at least Sun and Moon and Let's Go served the purpose. And they did what they could do with those games. I don't respect Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or at least the way it was advertised.
Yeah, that was messed up. They advertised it as if it were a new game and a new story, when in reality it was just a new post game that could have totally been re-released, or not re-released, but re-released as DLC.
Yeah.
And it would have been cheaper to make too.
But with Gen 8, it's just on one unpolished mess after the other.
Exactly. And speaking of unpolished, you can't battle on ledges.
Oh yeah, we touched upon this.
Anytime. Wait, what?
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry for interrupting. Anytime you're on, any slightly elevated ledge, and you see Pokemon right there, even if it's aggressive towards you, it's actively attacking you, and you throw out your Pokemon so you can fight it, you can't battle. It'll automatically say, like, as soon as you throw your Pokemon, it'll say, like something, a text box, something along the lines of you're too far away.
Like you're too far away from the battlefield or some crap like that.
Right. Yeah, and then you call back your Pokemon and you're just running away as Luxray is too busy throwing Thunderbolts at you.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me a couple times, and it's still dumb. I've had that happen to me with Alphas, actually.
Same, it's happened to me with anything, with Alphas. Anytime I'm on a ledge, it just happens. And sometimes I can see, like, you don't want to be on the top of one cliff fighting a Pokemon that's on the bottom of, you know, the ravine or whatever. Like, that I can understand.
They can still hurt you even when you're on the ledge. It's like, it doesn't even make sense.
A 2-foot ledge, and I can't fight the freaking Luxray that's trying to kill me? Nah. What's next? Item storage sucks. Item storage is the worst
awful.
And it's been handled in just any Pokemon game. I don't know what they were thinking.
I honestly, okay, I'm gonna say this. I know I was just praising the Pokedex being so dated that it's actually good, but I think the item storage in fucking Gen 1 was better than this one. Because in Gen 1, the worst you had to do was just go to your PC, because you can actually get full of stuff to the point that you can't pick up shit. But in Gen 1, all you have to do is just store it on your PC, and that's it. But here, if you want to expand the item storage from your freaking inventory, you have to talk to this dude who charges you for it. Okay, you get 200, here's an extra space. And then he increases it to 300 to the, he will continue raising the price, but you're still only getting one extra space. You're not getting two or three or five, and you're just paying more and more for just one space. And if you're going to charge me this much, why not expand it so much to the point that it will be so worth it? You are literally spending 1,500 Poké-Dollars for one space when you ought to already pay 200 Poké-Dollars for one space before. Like 16 spaces ago. It's so dumb.
It is. But the thing is, this is actually carried over from Breath of the Wild. But even then, Breath of the Wild handled it better. Because, okay, so you can carry a large amount of food and ingredients. I think ingredients is the only thing we have unlimited storage for. Other ones, like food, is limited, but it still gives you like a ton of room for it. And the only one that you can increase for the item storage for is weapons. So bows, let's see what else, arrows, close range weapons like swords, two-handed weapons and spears, and then you also have the shields. But the way you increase your storage for that is you find these things called Korok seeds, which are just like, you can get them from solving little puzzles here and there that are very simple, like throwing a rock into the center of this circle, or completing a circle, or shooting down certain targets. You get a Korok seed. Then you go to this guy called Hestu, and he can increase your storage based on how many Korok seeds you have. And people criticize it in Breath of the Wild that say that it's annoying, but you know what? At least it's better than having to pay for extra storage and have that price increase like by tenfold, basically.
For just one extra storage. Just one.
Exactly.
Just one.
And it's so dumb. And this is one thing that they carried over from Breath of the Wild, and they made it worse.
It's like, he even says, like, and one extra step could be, like, one extra item could be a life or death situation and blah, blah, blah. But he's just stealing your money. It's a fucking scam. It's horrible. It is.
And this never happened in any storage in any Pokemon game. You never had to pay a guy to get more storage in your backpack or buy a bigger backpack or whatever.
No, that's why I say Gen 1 handled it even better. Because fucking Gen 1, all you had to do was just store it in your PC. And
fucking Minecraft handled it better. And Minecraft was at least, 20 years ago at this point?
2010,
honestly,
yeah.
I know it's been less than 20 years, but something along those lines, like 15.
2010. Yeah, 2010 they came out.
Oh, 2010? Oh, 10 years. I thought it was older for some reason.
Well, it had like a beta process, but it was like released earlier stuff.
That's what I'm remembering. But yeah, even Minecraft handled it better because you can at least, even though it has limited storage and you can't increase it, you can at least make a chest and just store it randomly. Here, you would have to go back to your camp to put in items in your chest, and that's it.
Yeah.
And even then, that's another thing. Fast travel in this game sucks.
It's very much like the traveling and much like exploring in this game in general also feels limiting to fast travel, because if you don't have the campsites, you're not fast traveling anywhere but the one default campsite you have anyway. This feature may as well just not exist. You might as well just have had fly.
Yeah, you can only fast travel to 3 points in any given map. And that is the arena where you fight the noble Pokemon. Let's see what else. There is the second camp that you unlock, and the first camp that you get in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
You can't set your own little travel points.
Most of the second ones are just side missions anyway.
Yeah, honestly, Breath of the Wild had something similar where you can only fast travel to Sheikah Shrines, but that's the thing. Within the entirety of Hyrule, there are 108 Sheikah Shrines, so you can fast travel to basically almost any point that you want. And in here, it was neutered to just 3 per map. So 3 times 5, that's 15.
Yeah.
And it's annoying.
But you can fast travel in the hub world to more than 3 locations.
That's BS.
Yeah,
that's BS because you can't even travel. What other locations are you gonna travel? Kagita's house? Why would I want to go there aside from her side quest that you get at the end of the game?
Yeah, no. Like I said, considering the fact that it's limiting your open world experiences, it has to also limit your fast traveling experience, which just nah.
Yeah. And another thing, you can't fast travel if an aggressive Pokemon is attacking you or sees you.
I'm okay with that because lots of open worlds kind of do that anyway. So I'm okay.
Breath of the Wild didn't do that. You could fast travel in the middle of a fight.
Oh, I've had that in Fallout. Fallout, and most of Bethesda's games, they've always had that feature where you can't fast travel. Yeah, when you're fast traveling and you can't fast travel because there's an opponent locked on you. Yeah, that's been a feature in other games, but I find it funny that if it's not in Breath of the Wild, how come they implemented it in this game?
Exactly, and they reused assets from Breath of the Wild.
I don't know, maybe they literally handed,
and they were like, "Yo, let's do that."
It's like they literally handed them the ingredients to making a good game. They literally were saying, "Here, take this. There's no way in hell you can fuck it up." And then they fucked it up.
Yeah. Let's see what else we have here. Rideable Pokemon just kind of suck. I'm impressed that they did a decent job at it in Let's Go, only to make it worse in this one.
I haven't seen I haven't gotten to Braviary, but based on what you said about Braviary, doesn't sound all that interesting. Ursaluna is the only one that I genuinely didn't like. Sneasler is fine. It's alright.
Ursaluna is the worst one because even its tracking sucks.
It's terrible, yeah. But
it points you in the generic direction of where it could be.
But I kind of like Weirdeer, though.
Okay, but Weirdeer is hard to screw up because Weirdeer is just the fast, grounded option.
Yeah, he's the bicycle.
Exactly. And he's the first one that you get, so, I think because he's the first one, developers would have put more time, and the animations on Weirdeer are cool, and he does control good, but, outside of that...
Ursaluna, I just don't see any purpose to using him, because aside from the item storage stuff, because thanks to the item storage, any treasure he finds is useless to me.
Yeah.
His sense to getting side missions doesn't fucking work, and he's slow.
He's slow. It's not they could have made it. They could have given him another use, how maybe he travels faster in muddier areas, or can climb. I don't know. It's
him
better at rugged terrain or whatever. Something.
Yeah.
Anything. But there's one thing that all rideable Pokemon suck at, except Basculegion. You can't throw Pokeballs. when you're on a rival Pokemon. And this is egregious, especially for Braviary and Weirdeer.
I can only imagine how frustrating it has to be for Braviary, considering the fact that it's like, if you want to catch a flying type Pokemon,
it is more frustrating with Braviary because you actively have to, dive down, land, and then ready your Pokeball.
And then for Weirdeer, yeah, it's like I'm literally just trying to like catch a Pokemon as fast as like I can go to a Pokemon, I see it, I could just throw it up on Weirdeer. No, I have to let him go, throw it, and then summon it back.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Like, if you could throw Pokeballs on Weirdeer, it could have been so much easier. It really could have been. Like, it just would have made the experience just flow better. And the only reason why you can do it on Bastion Legion and not on the others is
because you can't catch him. Because you'll drown if you let him go.
No, exactly. That's why it's necessary to have it on Bastion Legion.
Imagine if it
wasn't necessary on the others. They didn't even bother putting it.
Imagine if it wasn't on Bastion Legion. This game would be like a 2 out of like a 1 out of 10.
You would actually be unable to complete the game because in order to get Arceus, you have to catch at least one of every Pokemon.
Fair.
So you literally would be unable to complete the game. That's the only reason why you can throw a Pokeball on Bastion Legion.
One of my biggest problems with Bastion Legion is when you fight a water Pokemon, your Pokemon just has to be like on some random platform that just spawns out of nowhere. And when they're moving, the platform moves with them. Like,
it's weird, but it makes sense because as a kid, I always wondered how is my Infernape or how is my Torterra fighting this Gyarados on the open ocean?
Yeah, that's fair. But it's so weird, like just how the way it looks.
I get it. It's a little jarring because it just spawns out of nowhere. I like how they handle it with water types and with flying types, or levitating Pokemon in general, where they just sort of hover above the water, or with water types they actually swim in it, and it's kind of cute.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are just annoying. Oh, Braviary can't fly, like I said.
Yeah, we mentioned that, which is just dumb.
Yeah. The only way that you can elevate is if you're already falling and you summon Braviary in the air for the first time, he'll just rise up a little bit and then continue to glide. Or you glitch it by despawning him and respawning him over and over again, and you get like a little bit of height from it.
That's crazy, the fact that you had to use something that's very reminiscent of freaking Silver's gameplay in Sonic 06.
I mean, literally, that's what I was thinking. I was just about to say that.
Like, Silver's gliding, if you really want to get to certain places better, you just mash the fucking A button. And this just sounds exactly like that.
Exactly, and it's literally just that.
Legends, please, why am I comparing you to freaking Sonic 06? Just why?
Honestly, the comparison's apt enough if you ask me, but let's see. Oh, catching Manaphy, which is required to complete the game, because Manaphy...
you whore! What? Is it actually required to beat the game?
Yes, because Manaphy can actually get in the game, but the only way that you can get it, besides looking it up online on how to do it, is if you have BDSP. So the way that it goes is that at some point you get this quest called Prince of the Sea or something like that.
I had that quest! Was that really the fucking quest? It's like the sea, the land of the... It's like the oh my god, like the Lord of the Seas or something like that.
Exactly, Prince of the Sea or something like that. So the only way that you can get it, you know how the Professor Lavington, he talks about this book that is apparently lost, and that you cannot find it, and that no one knows where the hell it is. Well, guess what? It's in the Candlelab City Library in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Wow.
Yeah, you go to the library, and they tell you that the 3 Pokemon that you need in your party in order to summon, I guess you could say, Manaphy, is an Overquill, a Buizel, and a Mantike. And you cannot find that information anywhere in BDSP. You would either have to look it up online or play BDSP.
That's dumb. That's so dumb. That's dumb.
It's literally a requirement to complete the game, and you need another game to complete it.
Wow. Oh, you just reminded me of one thing about BDSP. That's kind of, they do this practice. I know it's not very uncommon for Pokemon to, like, try and get other Pokemon games to, to encourage trading, because you can't get Pokemon from other games, to get certain Pokemon that are normally inaccessible. Like, you can get Colosseum and XD, and you can get Pokemon that were not available in the third generations, like Ho and Lugia, for instance, to complete the Pokedex in that way. This business practice of Pokemon has always been there from the beginning. However, it never really has to feel like it's a requirement, unlike this one. But in BDSP,
this one actually is a requirement to complete the game and get the legendary, to get the mascot legendary.
I also remember to say that BDSP, to get they literally give you a Mew and Jirachi, for the record. Like, two old couples just randomly give you a Mew and a Jirachi. And how you have to make sure that happens is you have to get one of the you have to get Sword or Shield and one of the Let's Go games to get them both. I think I don't remember which is which, but the long story short, if you want both, you need to get a game, either Sword or Shield or one of the Let's Go games, or one of the Let's Go games. You need both.
I don't know how I feel about that, but I will say this: Pokemon events just kind of suck nowadays. Like, there's no special event, there's no story reason. You just kind of get it.
They just give it to you.
Some mailman comes and gives it to you. Some old lady, some old hag who, for some reason, has the embodiment of nightmares or the creator of all Pokemon inside their little cherish ball, and they just give it to you.
Yeah, like, it was way better than the way they handled it in Gens 3 and 4, where there was actually like an event.
Like, Keldeo had an event, and so did Victini. Victini had a whole little island event thing going on.
Yeah.
Like how they handled it in Gen 4, except better because it was tied to, like, they somehow tied it in with Team Plasma. I don't remember the details because it's been so long, but, it was an actual event and not just an innocent old lady. Here's the creator of nightmares.
Here's the creator of God.
Yeah. Here's a Pokemon with a sword through its head.
God.
Here's the Pokemon that Team Plasma made. How do I have it? Lord knows how.
That's so dumb.
I have my ways.
You have to get BDSP to actually finish Legends Arceus, or Google it, because the game doesn't even fucking tell you. Just
exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's another low. Wow. That's a whole nother low.
Which leads me to my next point. 100% of the game is unreasonably difficult and unnecessary. So, by 100%ing the game, I mean completing the Pokedex.
I would never do that. I would never Tamashi, if you think 100%ing Colosseum was stressful, good luck with Legends Arceus. You're gonna need it, buddy. Because this is fucking...
I have the Pokedex entry for every single Pokemon and that you can catch in base game Legends Arceus. But I did not 100% the Pokedex, because there's a difference. When you 100% the Pokedex, it means you complete all of the tasks that it asks you. So in order to complete a Pokedex, or to get level 10 research level, which is when you get the Dex entry, you have to complete a list of tasks that Marker and I were talking about earlier in this podcast. You have to complete a certain number of tasks in order to get the entry, which makes it feel like, an older Pokemon game.
Yeah.
In the sense that, this feels like how a scientist would go out and, figure out how certain species of animals behave. But in this one, it's like unreasonably difficult with some of them. Like, for example, Magnemite. Magnemite is a rare encounter that you only get in space-time distortions, and in order to complete its Pokedex tasks list thing, you have to find it 15 or 5 times or something like that in space-time distortions, which spawn every 30 minutes, and you can't control when they spawn.
I've only faced one Magnemite in the space-time distortions. I remember that clearly.
Exactly.
Dude, I was so mad.
You can get Magnezone outside of a space-time distortion, but you can't get Magnemite or Magneton. Make it make sense.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, and Hornet Highlands. So that's another thing that I actually really like about this game. it has really strong flying Pokemon, just like flying around in circles in certain areas that are pretty difficult to catch because you have to aim, just right. Oh, that's another thing that I have to talk about, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Magnezone is one of them, which is pretty cool. You can get Crobat in the Alabaster Icelands, Togekiss in the Obsidian Fieldlands, and they're actually like really good. It's a really good way to get like a strong early game Pokemon, because you can get Togekiss as soon as you have Weird Ear. But yeah, about aiming. So, in any normal, how do you think aiming with a Pokeball would function, Marker? Like, tell me how you think it would function.
I aim and hold the ball and throw it.
You think the Pokeball would go where the reticle is, right?
Yeah.
Not with the Feather Ball or the Feather Ball series of Pokeballs.
Oh, I tried using the Feather Ball like once and I hated it.
You have to aim lower than what the reticle asks you to.
Yeah, I've already explained my issues with the fucking heavy ball in particular. I think I tried using the Feather Ball once. I don't remember who I was trying to capture, but I remember I regretted it immediately. I was like, fuck this.
You know how to use them, then it's good, but at the same time, it's just so clunky, and it always hits above the reticle. It just does. It does, and it doesn't adjust itself. It just uses the same reticle as it would for a Pokeball, and you have to aim lower than what the reticle is. Instead of the game adjusting, its reticle for a different item, you have to adjust yourself to the different item.
Yeah, that I see the problem. I see it now. I understand.
Which is unreasonable.
Yeah, it's like getting a gun, and it's like if the game is only programmed to have the pistol, right?
Yeah, and then you get a sniper rifle.
You switch to a gun, but the aim sight is exactly the same as a pistol. So you had to adjust it yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to be shooting all over the place because it only recognizes the way the pistol works, not how the shotgun or sniper or anything else works. I understand it.
Exactly. I could not have said it better myself.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about the pros.
Yeah, finally. We've been bitching about this game for over an hour, and it's time to talk about some good things. Hey, we're not negative. We're just grumpy.
Exactly. We're not negative. We're just opinionated.
We're just toxic.
At
least we're not sexist or misogynist. Thank God we're just talking. Thank God we're just talking about Pokemon, where none of that exists.
Wait, what did you say about misogynist?
Oh no, okay, I'm sorry. It's just like whenever there's like a franchise that some people are very passionate about, and there's like a diverse cast of characters and something, you say so much as any shitty thing about them. It's like you're automatically a misogynist or a transphobic, and they always do that shit. They did that with the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and they did that with The Last of Us Part 2. It's like, I'm like saying, just thank God we're just talking about Pokemon, because I swear to God, if it was happening in this franchise too, honestly, the Winnie the Pooh horror movie is the only thing I'm looking forward to in life.
Oh my God. That movie's gonna be trippy.
I'm gonna love every second of it.
Oh my God. But anyways, so the positives. So the gameplay makes it feel like an old Pokemon game, which is cool. It makes it feel old-timey. The aesthetic is cool. It really just evokes that old Sinnoh vibe. With how the Pokeballs look, the character designs. I like how a lot of these characters are, in fact, the ancestors of characters that we do meet in later Pokemon games, not just in the Sinnoh region, but also we get Wolfric's ancestor in this game.
Isn't there one? Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. This might be just a theory, but isn't there one that's Bertha's and Agatha's?
Yes, okay. It's the oldest of the Misfortune sisters.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
And that's another thing how you can tell, not just by appearance, but also the team that they use. So, for instance, Bertha's ancestor, like you mentioned, she uses both Pokemon that Bertha and Agatha use, a Gengar and a Rhyhorn.
That's nice. That's actually nice.
Well, not Rhyhorn, Rhydon is the substitute for Rhyperior, because Rhyperior, they treat it as like really special. You can only get it as an alpha. And And also, the only way you can get the item to evolve right period is through space-time distortion, so that's why. But aside from that, it did a really good job with doing that. I thought a lot of these references were really cute. I like how it's kind of ambiguous if whether you are a real life person, like you're from this world, not from the Pokemon world, and you were just transferred in the Pokemon world, or if you're from modern day Sinnoh. And there's some Pokedex entries that do reference that.
There's a scene with the bastard that didn't let me take the Alpha Crobat. That sort of implies that references the Pokemon world and how it was like the world we know, and it's sort of implied that your main character came from that world too. During that cutscene,
there's a really cute Pokedex entry with Raichu that says that Raichu's electricity is capable of knocking out a what was it? The elephant Pokemon from Gen 8? I forgot what it was called.
You're asking me? I
didn't play Gen 8.
I know shit. I barely remember shit from Gen 8.
You know what I'm talking about. But there's also another one that made me really sad. It was the Clefable one, where it says that Clefable looks into the moon and misses its people or something like that. And it says, I too miss my home.
Damn.
It's so cute.
Okay, I found the elephant Pokemon. Coopercha? I don't fucking know.
Oh, Caparaja. Yeah, that's right. I remember. Caparaja.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? The story is surprisingly serious. I didn't think Pokemon was going to go for a religious-themed story, but it makes sense in Sinnoh of all places.
It definitely makes a whole lot of sense. We got fucking
exactly.
gods and...
I just didn't think that we would actively go for it.
The thing is,
because of how criticized the story was for Black and White.
But
even the Black and White story is still better. I'm glad that they at least tried with the story in this one to an extent when compared to, say, Sword and Shield.
I would say Sword and Shield doesn't even have a fucking story.
Exactly. Sword and Shield doesn't have a story. It's just a sequence of events, and then Let's Go is just Gen 1 happened again, but also Gen 1 already happened? Question mark.
Yeah, no, that's a whole other can of worms. But
exactly.
But I feel like that was the appropriate direction, considering that they still wrote Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina's origins the way they were. So
exactly, as the creators of this world and of the region in general.
So regardless of how one feels about the religion shits, it's the appropriate direction that they were going to be taking for a prequel to the Sinnoh game, since that was wait, why is my favorite generation the religion one? because shut up. Just shut up. I didn't even think about it until you just said it. I'm like, fuck, man.
I don't know.
I thought I was just talking. I literally had to stop myself. But yeah.
Yeah.
God and Satan. All right.
Let's see. What else? Oh yeah. The variety Pokemon was actually really nice. You can actually, with the exception of fairy types, you can actually make a full team of each type of Pokemon. Yeah. Including legendaries, which I thought was kind of cute. However, there are some Pokemon that are from the original Sinnoh decks that were missing for unknown reasons, like Altaria, Medicham, Feebas, the Houndour line.
You just mentioned what you just said right now. I shared this on the server, but I think this is actually the perfect game to do the Avatar Last Airbender challenge.
It actually, the guy that you told me about that did the Avatar Last Airbender video?
Yeah.
He made a new video about basically a Pokemon Legends in the Avatar world. Tam Valley Productions.
Oh, interesting.
I'll send it to you through Discord.
Okay.
You guys should check out that video, by the way. He's a really good YouTuber. Tell him we sent you and that we want to collab with him.
Tell him I sent you. We're here to negotiate a slut meeting.
Exactly, a meeting between sluts. He lives in California, though, so that's literally on the other side of the hemisphere for us.
I mean, Kat and Alec live there.
Yeah, that's true. But that you know how we would have to, like coordinate time. Like they're like what 8 hours behind us.
We could seduce someone.
You're not wrong. But we're both open though.
What?
And it's not cheating if you don't, actively, do anything with them. So yeah, let's seduce someone.
Let's seduce them and then toss them out of the plane.
Oh my god.
There. It's problem solved.
We
Anyway.
seduce the pilot and then we just throw him out of the plane.
So yeah, you know what? New series on my channel coming soon in the future. Legends Arceus, Avatar: Last Airbender challenge.
Honestly,
I'm
I think I might do the same thing because you can have. I think you can have multiple save files in Legends Arceus, so I might do the same thing.
This game's a 10 out of 10. Fuck yes, yes. I don't have to lose my alphas.
I think so. I'm not sure. I have to check.
If it doesn't, then this game's a 0 out of 10. Worst game ever. But if it is,
we gotta look this up right now. We're literally reviewing this game.
Okay. I'm doing it. How does Pokemon Legends have gyms? Really? That was the first one that came up. Have multiple save files. No, not multiplayer. Oh my god. So
I looked at multiple save files.
Yeah.
How to get multiple save files in Legends Arceus.
How many save files? An additional 4 save slots, bringing the total to 8. This will allow you to make even more saves. Oh my god, this game's a masterpiece. All right, put that in the pros. Thank you. I hate
done and done. You can save. You finally have multiple save files.
Oh damn. I'm so stupid. I deleted my first file. But it's okay. I didn't do shit in that save file. Oh well.
Oh my god.
Oh thank fuck. I really didn't want to lose some of my alpha. The alpha Torterra I have is so precious.
I know. I didn't want to lose any of my Pokemon. I didn't want to lose my Alpha Garchomp.
Oh,
that Alpha Garchomp literally carried me in the final battle.
Nice.
Yeah. Which, by the way, you know the final battle, right?
It's Volo, right?
Yeah, it's Volo. He
Yeah,
has Cynthia's team, except instead of Milotic, he has Hisuian Arcanine, which is a cool substitute.
Yeah, I knew people wouldn't shut the fuck up about him because apparently he has Cynthia's theme, so it's implied that he's Cynthia's ancestor. He's not the main antagonist, is he?
Yes and no. He is the reason why the event started. Like, he is the reason why the space-time distortions are happening. He's the reason why Arceus sought you out.
Yeah, dude, because, like, not gonna lie, with how often he popped up in and out, I already knew he was sus about something.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But they never explain his motives. That's the thing. It's kind of like Cyrus and Base Diamond and Pearl, where they never really explain his motives. He's just like, wants to recreate this world because it's imperfect.
What the fuck?
And he doesn't really go beyond that.
Oh my god, this is Cynthia's ancestor? He's a bad guy? The fuck? Who did he fuck to make sure Cynthia was born?
I don't know. He kind of disappears after you fight him and beat him.
This is oh, okay, well, that's fair. But he still fucked someone. And how did Cynthia become so much better after that? What the fuck? This is Rise of Skywalker all over again.
because the sins of the father do not equate to the sins of the child.
Oh, shut up.
But you invited me over to talk in a podcast.
Shut up. Shut up and then speak.
Alright, I actually really like the final battle, but I did over-level by accident because people were saying, oh, you have to use the legendaries to beat him, and I'm like, fuck that, I want to beat him with the team I currently have.
Okay, to be fair, I don't blame you for over-leveling, because I've over-leveled myself because of how distracting this game is with the exploration sometimes.
But even then, it was still hard. I still needed at least, I think I needed like 1 max revive, because, I don't know, I forgot why I needed it, but I needed it, and I used it on my Samurott, because Samurott in this game is a dark type, and so I was able to beat Giratina with him. And it was kind of cute because I was able to beat, the final Pokemon, the final boss Pokemon, except for Arceus, which, that's another thing I gotta talk about. But yeah, I was able to defeat him with the Pokemon that I started with, which I thought was really cute.
Yeah. Hopefully I can do that with Typhlosion.
Let's see. Which, by the way, actually you could, because Typhlosion is a ghost type. The only one that you can't really do that with is Decidueye, unless Decidueye learns Night Slash in this one, which I'm not sure if he does. But that's another topic for another day. The battle with Arceus. So, funny thing is, you don't actually catch Arceus, but you do. So you battle Arceus. In this sort of, it's the Hall of Origin, and you climb up the steps, and it's like this, beautiful sort of Aurora Borealis looking area, and the fight is hard. Like, it's very difficult, but it's not difficult in a BS kind of way, the way that Hisuian Arcanine is.
Fuck that guy.
Like, it's difficult in that I know that I lost because either I didn't know the cues, but you learn them after if you like lose or you get hit, or if I just wasn't paying attention. So it was like fair. It was difficult, but it was fair. Even though the dodge roll in this game sucks, and the hit stun animation takes forever, it still felt fair to a degree. And when you beat Arceus, it says that something along the lines of he wants to see the world through your eyes, and thus gives you an aspect of himself. And so he gives you the Legendary Plate, which lets Arceus be every type, but there's limits to that, and I'll explain them, when I get to that. And he gives you like a version of himself that you can take with you.
Don't you have to beat the game to also be able to get him in BDSP? Because
yes, you have to beat Legends Arceus in order to get Arceus in BDSP.
Yeah, to get
which
the
is kind of cute as well, because it kind of sucks because it involves having to beat both games, but it's cute because in order to do something in the present, you have to do it in the past. You have to set up the event for it in the past.
Your ancestor Dawn, your ancestor Akari, which conveniently looks exactly like Dawn, who traveled in time, is doing it in the future. Yeah.
Exactly. And let's see, what else?
Holy shit.
The Legendary Plate. So the Legendary Plate, what it does is that it allows you to change the type of Judgment, and it changes it to the super effective type, or one of the super effective types of the Pokemon that you're fighting. So say that you're fighting... Huh?
That sounds broken.
Yes and no. Because you have to stay that type for the rest of the battle, unless you use Judgment again. And there's no PP ups in this game, so you can only use it 5 times. But what's an example I could give? Okay, say you're fighting Garchomp. And with the Legendary Plate, you automatically turn into an Ice type, and Judgment changes to an Ice type move. However, you become an Ice type, and you can't really change types after that.
Yeah, you're stuck with that Ice type, so if you don't...
You can control which type you become. So if you accidentally become a Dragon type when fighting Garchomp, you can end up screwing yourself over. Or for example, what happened to me was I was using it on an Alpha Gyarados, I became a Rock type, and then I got, O-code with a Hydro Pump.
You're using Arceus, or are you just using a random Pokemon?
Arceus, using Arceus with the Legendary Plate.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't touch upon a lot of things of how the battling is in this game. Like, it's very different. It honestly reminds me a lot of how Mystery Dungeon does it. You know how...
Yeah.
You know how, like, in Mystery Dungeon, for instance... Okay, throughout every generation of Pokemon games, Thunderbolt, any electric move just straight up does not affect ground at all. But in Mystery Dungeon, it damages them a little bit. So, like, much like what Mystery Dungeon does, it, like, changes some things around to make it work for its game. This game does the same thing.
Like, and spikes actually do damage.
Like, Hypnosis doesn't exactly put you to sleep, it just makes you drowsy, so you could potentially skip a turn, or you can still attack, but you're just drowsy throughout the turn.
And Freeze doesn't exist anymore, now it's Frostbite, which is like an ice type equivalent of Burn, except I don't know if it affects your damage output.
Not
All I know is that it goes
I'm
3
not
off
aware.
damage.
I'm unaware if it does anything to your stats, but I do. Frostbite is another, and wild Pokemons can sometimes get pissed off and then increase their stats. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I like it to a certain extent because it makes sense. Like, it would be angrier. It would get more annoyed that you're still fighting it. But at the same time, I can understand why people would think it's bullshit.
Yeah, I'm at the camp of it being kind of bullshit because I especially hate it when it happens with an alpha, because when it happens with an alpha,
It would have to be balanced better, I guess, if they were to implement it in the new game. But I don't know. I'm just kind of on the fence on that issue, to be completely honest.
There's also I'm also on the fence of how the turn system works, which is something that I'm very mixed about.
Turn system is bullshit in this game because first off, the turn calculator thing that you have there doesn't even work.
Yeah, and sometimes it'll tell you, yeah, you're definitely gonna go these 2 turns. Oh, except I lied. This guy,
I lied because the Pokemon decided to use a strong style move or an agile style move.
Agile style, yeah. Like, even the strong styles sometimes don't even work the way it's intended. Like, strong style is supposed to make you go slower but increase your attacks, but I still have had mine, like, go after the opponent attacks. And I especially hate the turn system when another Pokemon is in the fight. So if I'm trying to, like, fight one Pokemon, but this one other Pokemon that also saw me gets conveniently very close, and he participates in the battle without my consent, I freaking hate it. I fucking hate it. I remember my golem got fucked up because I had to. This is like one of like the trainer battles that I had to do where there were 3 Pokemon around me, and my golem didn't even get a chance to move, and it got knocked out. I also find it weird that I find Pokemon lower level than me can sometimes do shitloads of damage on me.
Yeah.
I've had that moment when I get hit by a super effective hit. Like, when you're a Pokemon that's low level, even if you hit it with a super effective hit, there's only so much damage one can do. But when they're low level in this game and they do a super effective hit, even if it's just a regular super effective, like not even quad, it does a shitload of damage. I've had level 30 Pokemon like knock out level 50s of mine. It's ridiculous. Or level 20s.
No, it happens. There's something up with the damage calculator, but there's definitely something up with the accuracy calculator. I have this one battle. And this happened to me multiple times, but there's one particular battle where I was using Torterra against a Glameow. My Torterra had 3 moves that had 100% accuracy. And they all missed back to back to back to back to back, and we couldn't hit each other at all until I changed to like strong style.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened for like straight up a minute before I noticed, or longer even, like maybe 2 or 3.
One thing that I did, I hate
and
this.
These were 100% accuracy moves. Like, this was Earthquake.
One thing that you did remind me of one thing that I absolutely fucking hate this feature. So obviously, when you use a move like Mud Slap or Sand Attack, it lowers your accuracy, right? It lowers the accuracy for that Pokemon specifically. Nobody else's. That's not what this game does. If the Pokemon hits you with like
the Pokemon.
Yeah, it becomes subsided, and this affects all of your Pokemon. So like even if one of your Pokemon got hit by Mud Slap and you switched it out or it dies and you switch to another Pokemon, that Pokemon can miss shitloads of times, even though he didn't get hit by Mud Slap at all. That's because the enemy Pokemon is subsided.
Exactly, and they handled it better in previous games. So this is another one of those things where you handled it so well in the previous games, and literally every game before this. But for this one, you just don't work.
It's so funny. Like, I was fine with the Drowsy and the Frostbite stuff. I was fine with changes like that. I don't really like the turn system that much either. But at least you can at least.
They could make it so it shows you different options. Like, for example, if the Pokemon does an Agile style move, this is what the turns will look like. If it does a strong style move, this is what the turns are going to look like. If it does, a normal style move or whatever, this is what the turn will look like. Instead, it just gives you one that is potentially what could happen. One of the many potential options.
Yeah. Also, using a slow Pokemon, you're just asking to get fucked. I'm just pointing that out.
Exactly.
Like
using Agile style on an already, fast Pokemon is just, has no point unless you're doing the combo of Agile style with Strong style, which unless you can guarantee that you'll 2-hit KO the Pokemon, you're gonna end up screwing yourself over.
Yeah, but the subsiding from the enemy team, I find ridiculous. I find it so fucking
I don't
stupid.
like it either, to be honest. It doesn't make any sense. It makes sense with some moves like Smokescreen, but at the same time, it's just like, no, just don't.
Yeah. Which is ironic because I was looking at the pros list, and you have the battle gameplay is different, but in some ways welcomed. And I was just talking about we sort of like draw the straws of some of the good things about it, but it also has.
I do like that you can make a move an Agile style or a Strong style move. I just wish the turn system was fixed.
Oh, and one more thing. I actually like the way they handle the moves in this game. How you can change them. I like that.
How so?
Okay, so let's say you have your Torterra, Earthquake, Leaf Storm, Rock Slide, and Synthesis, okay? Let's say, okay, it learns moves while leveling up, or you can purchase them. Those moves are already stored in the
right!
Yeah, and you can switch them whenever you want, and I think that's great.
I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
I think that's
like you can go to the menu and go and like say you want to relearn Solar Beam or whatever. You can do that.
Yeah, I thought that was fucking brilliant. I actually really like that because I hate.
It's about time we got rid of the whole heart scale. Having to relearn a move thing.
Granted, I did think they fixed that problem with Gen 5. Like you didn't need a heart scale to relearn moves, but it doesn't mean it was perfect. Still, I like the fact that you can do it anywhere. You don't have to look for the name for the the move tutor, dude. Like you can just learn your moves, your level 1 moves, right out the gates, or you can purchase some moves that you can learn, or hell, by level up, you're still learning other moves, and it's like you can replace them whenever you want. You can play around with them. If you plan to catch this Pokemon, you can have your Pokemon have hypnosis right then and there. You don't need to go someplace. You can do it right on the spot. I think that's fucking brilliant.
I agree. I think it's really good. And it's a really good quality of life change, and I think it's something that hopefully should stay in place for upcoming releases.
I actually would like to see it return in Scarlet and Violet and onwards.
I'll say that's easily the best feature within the game, easily. Yeah.
See, we're not Nancy's.
Exactly, and to further prove that, we actually made a list, or rather, I made a list of little improvements that could have been made in Legends Arceus. So. Item storage can function like it was in previous games. We shouldn't be paying someone thousands and thousands of dollars to get at least.
If we're gonna pay for the storage, at least make the prices reasonable with how much storage we're asking for. Like if if you're gonna make us pay for the storage, at least make it make sense. I'm paying this amount for 1 storage. I'm paying this amount for 5 storages. It's not hard. I don't like the way it's handled in this game is so atrocious. It makes me it makes me question the common sense of the people behind Game Freak. It's so stupid.
No, this is their business model. This is their business model. What are you talking about?
Yeah, moving on.
This is exactly how the Pokemon business runs.
Pretty
Anyways,
much.
Sending out a Pokemon outside of battle could function like how it does in Pokemon Camp, which is the Gen 8 equivalent of Pokemon Ami or Refresh, where they could just walk around and play and do whatever, instead of just standing there like kind of lifelessly, not doing anything.
I would like to have access to the farm you go to. Like, I wish they had a feature where you can go in and interact with your Pokemon.
That's another thing. That would have been so cute, and that could have been a good way to like evolve Eevee into Sylveon instead of just making it friendship based, which further confuses things for people who don't know that you'd have to get rid of Charm on Eevee.
Yeah.
That's another topic. Let's see. Follow Pokemon could be implemented in a way similar to how it was in Let's Go.
Yeah,
Let's Go handle Follow Pokemon the best way.
Similar to Let's Go, and not something like BDSP.
Exactly. Let's see. The player walking speed and running speed could be increased because the player moves so slow, and you can't summon the rideable Pokemon in the village. So
Yeah,
you just
I
kind of
hate
like
that. I really hate it. Yeah,
I
if
hate
you're
the
gonna make
movement
me
speed.
like walk all the way and I can't use the rideable Pokemon, at least make the exception with the stamina of my running speed. Because it's
Exactly. The
ridiculous.
stamina sucks in this game. You have an invisible stamina meter that you cannot influence in any way, shape, or form, and it lasts for like what, a second,
Yeah,
and
maybe
you and,
you
it, and
just
you can't even activate it like manually. It's just an automatic thing while you're moving.
you're
And this
basically
was
better
even
off.
handled better in Breath of the Wild, where in Breath of the Wild you can upgrade it, you know, as you complete shrines and get spirit orbs and choose to upgrade either your health or stamina.
And you actually see the
Um,
stamina too.
and you actually see the stamina, and you can get foods and drinks and potions and stuff that you can, you know, drink yourself in order to increase your own stamina. But instead, you know, it's just an invisible meter that lasts for like a second at most,
Just spam
and
dodging.
makes you just waddle. Wait, what?
Just spam dodging, it's faster.
It's spam dodging, even though dodge roll sucks in this game too. But whatever.
But you're not dodging Pokemon, you're just trying to get there faster.
Exactly, just Ocarina of Time all over again. Let's see. Rideable Pokemon can function the way it does in Let's Go. Like, yeah, you can still have the normal Pokemon that you ride on, but make them like the best at it. Like, for example, Sneasler could be the best at climbing. And let's say Weirder could be the fastest one. Or Bravier could be the best at flying if flying was actually implemented.
Flying. I mean, you didn't put this on the list, but put it right there. Bravery should actually fucking fly.
Exactly. Bravier should fucking fly. It's a bird, not Gliscor.
Fucking
If this was a
idiots.
Sweden Gliscor or whatever, then okay, yeah, reasonable. But this is a literal Bravier. This is a big ass bird that's like it's literally like 7 feet tall. Like this thing should be able to, you know, carry you and like lift you up high into the sky.
Carry you, and I don't mean just carrying your weight. I mean it'll carry you to victory.
That too. Let's see. The story. It could have been handled like Mystery Dungeon because it's very similar to Mystery Dungeon.
Dude, the thing I think
You
my biggest
literally get thrown into a new world of Pokemon, and you're summoned by, you know, some unknown entity. You make friends, you make partners, and then after the mission's over, you can be sent home. And then because you love your friends or whatever, you come back.
I get that
Like,
this Pokemon is this Pokemon game is actually trying to be different, and I can respect the efforts of trying to be different. But
right.
honestly, the more I keep thinking about the bosses in Legends Arceus, like the Steed Pokemon, and you have to fight 5 before you get to the end goal, they're essentially this game's versions of the gym leaders. And I'm just waiting for the day where we don't have to be kind of formulaic and redundant with some of the things. I'd like it the way when you just mentioned a story being told like Mystery Dungeon, you know, with the exception of the missions that you have to do in Mystery Dungeon can kind of get a little exhausting, but the storytelling, the pacing and all, it's all different. I don't know.
Exactly. Like, each new dungeon that you get is something new to the story. It adds to it. It adds to whether it be the mystery with the time gears or, you know, some added backstory to like Wigglytuff
Mm-hmm.
and the world, or just world building in general. Like just some solid ass world building.
Speaking
But,
of world
you
building,
know, yeah, the world building could have been better in this one too.
well, I was mostly
It's just
transitioning
kind of
to
like,
I was mostly transitioning to your next point.
oh yeah, that's right. My next point. Freaking have Volo state why he wants to recreate the universe.
Yeah,
Like,
I honestly,
at least we have Platinum and the Pokemon anime where they give you like some hints on why he wants to recreate the universe. In Platinum, there's an NPC you can talk to in Sunny Shore that, you know, describes Cyrus as how he was as a kid, how he was very distant from everyone but still very intelligent.
but this is
And you can kind of
Cyrus.
put the pieces together. Exactly, Cyrus. You can put the pieces together, kind of, through your own interpretation as to why you think he would want to recreate the universe. And this one, there's literally, even though we spend a lot of time with Volo, we don't get any insight to who he really is, aside from, you know, being obsessed with Arceus.
It's sad that it's sad that we spend so much time with what is essentially the main villain, and we
we
don't
don't even know
shit.
what they want. And when we do find out that the main villain, it doesn't even like act as a gut punch or as like I didn't see that coming, because you see it coming like literally the cutscene before it happens. You're like, wait a minute, why is Volo like doing an evil laugh?
And even then,
Like,
it's
why
like
is he talking about Giratina as if Giratina was just this incredible Pokemon? Like, he's gonna betray us. I know it. It's not like with Dusknoir. When Dusknoir,
yeah, I was literally gonna say Dusknoir as an example.
Yeah, when Dusknoir betrayed you, it's like when you saw Dusknoir going into the future, you were like sad. I remember I almost started crying when I was a kid playing Doom Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time. And you see, your partner crying too, and everyone's so sad, and then Dusknoir just like out of the blue just grabs you and just drags you into the future, and then threatens, and then tells his Sableye minions to kill you, basically.
Yeah, and all because of you, all because he found out who you are. Like he found out your name and your backstory. He knows it all, and it's like it changes a lot of things. And Dusknoir went from like a supporting character to a secondary antagonist, and it's like it's someone we actually put our guard down. Volo just appears when he feels.
Volo just kind of appears when he wants to appear, and he could have been. You know what Volo could have been?
What?
He could have been an interesting combination of both the Dusknoir and the partner.
Mm-hmm. Like someone that you had like a great bond
with. A traveling companion that you go around with, explore the region with.
Hell,
like maybe not to the same extent as like someone following you 24/7, but someone that you meet around a lot with.
Hell,
like more often than what you do in the actual game.
Imagine if he was the first character you met instead of the professor.
Exactly. Like how it was in Mystery Dungeon. How in Mystery Dungeon games, you always meet your partner first before anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so, honestly, like they had Mystery Dungeon right there. They had Breath of the Wild's assets right there, and they just didn't do it.
They just didn't fuck.
Like they had everything going for them with this game. Even in the trailer, when they had this really pretty cel-shaded style, and they went with this butt-ugly, like, dirt-looking style that looks like the models are straight from Gmod.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's another thing. Model shading. It's that simple. Why do the models all have this one flat color on them?
Because it's
like,
easy.
The models... Exactly. I mean, they're improving with it in... I mean, the models at least look better. They're a lot more detailed in Scarlet and Violet, so they're at least improving on that. But it doesn't change the fact that the models in this game just look ugly because they have no proper coloring or shading, and they're just one dull, not even dull. They're just one solid color, and that's it. They just call it a day.
Yeah, but. Our official final thoughts. Do we think the game is bad? What rating would you give this game?
I don't think it's a terrible game. I would say it's like 6, 5 out of 10.
I'm between that two. I was thinking when I started, I was like thinking 7, but then as I progressed through the game, it sort of dropped to a 6 to me. The Manaphy thing is really tempting me to put it to a 5, but
I was gonna say 5 just to not give a half a point,
because like 5 is like mediocre score, which I feel like it's fair because it's not like this game. It's not like I loved every bit about this game, or it's not like
or it's not like they have to make it from scratch because they reused assets from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
and also the models from previous Pokemon games.
It's more like a perspective thing. Like the more you think about it, it's like the worse it kind of is. Yeah. Like it could have been better.
I will say that they did update some models and some animations for some Pokemon.
Okay.
Like for instance, one thing that I really noticed, and this is because I love Lucario and I use him in basically any game that I can. Lucario has a new physical attack animation that is so much better than what it is in since Gen 6. Since Gen 6, all he did was just this weird, like palm strike forward that just kind of looks like his special attack animation, and it's nothing special. In Legends, they changed it to this like flying like Tatsumaki Senpu Raikyu kick from Street Fighter, like this big wide aerial like roundhouse, and it looks really cool.
See, there are some. I feel honestly, I think 5 is appropriate because 5 is like a half and half thing.
Exactly.
So it's
I
like,
think this game is like 2 steps forward, like 3 steps back.
yeah, half of this game is like good, and then the other half is like garbage.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think 5 is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. Alright, hopefully
that-
Violet won't be a 5.
I mean, hey, look at that. At least he did better than BDSP. I gave BDSP a 2.
That's true.
But anyway, this has been the latest installment of the beautiful Slutcast. Thank you, Juanito, for joining me and bitching about Pokemon. And we are more than likely going to be playing Scarlet and Violet once that game comes out. So prepare your anus for that. Because I hear that game's gonna have co-op. That's pretty fun. That's pretty poggers.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what could possibly go wrong? This can only go up from here. But yeah, thank you, Sluts, for watching, and I'll hope to see you in another Slutcast or in another video that I made, period. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you all later. I said see you both. What am I, only talking to 2 people? Probably. Later, Sluts.
Bye.